Okay, we are back. Let me go into comments. Oh, this is a new live, so we don't have anybody on yet, but hopefully they will come on and we can ask the question. So we'll wait a couple minutes to
And then
see.
I
And then
will
I will
look and see if
look
I
and
can
see if I
figure it
can
out.
figure it out. Okay, keep going. So okay, so I'm going to start again because this is basically like a new live. So Jeanette is muted because we had some technical difficulties, and she is going to try to figure that out as we go. And so this is episode 34 of If This Canvas Could Talk. I'm Teriegh Wilson. This is Jeanette Bergstrom. And we're super excited because normally we would chat on a Monday. We have a Monday call each Monday where we kind of catch up with what's happening with us. And we weren't able to do it this Monday. And so we have not talked yet about any of these things that we're going to be discussing about the art fair. So it really, truly is live and in living color in our brain with us. So for anyone that's watching, can you let me know if you can hear me okay now that we've muted Jeanette? And if so, I'm going to continue on. So I see that we have some people on. So if anybody could comment, that would be awesome. Awesome, awesome. What we're talking about today is art fairs. And okay, so Bernie said that it's better. Hey, Bernie. Hi, my friend. Okay, so it's better. We'll continue on. If it gets worse, though, will you be kind of our eyes and ears out there and let me know? And Jeanette's going to keep going. And when she has a question, just go like this, and then I'll unmute you and then we'll see. But okay, so I did a art fair this last weekend called the Best of the Northwest, and this is my second time of doing this show. I did the spring, and then now we just did the fall. And when Tony and I made the decision to try it, we went to this art fair first of all. So that's one of my first tips is if you're thinking about doing an art fair, to go to the ones that you're thinking about doing and check them out first to see if you like the location, if it's busy, if your people are there, if you think that your collectors would be there, and if it's going to be worth the investment, because it is a huge investment in time, energy, and a monetary investment to do an art show. So we decided that we were going to do this show 3 times and then evaluate from the 3 times what we thought, what we learned, and what we thought as far as if we want to continue on. One of the things that I love about this is that it's indoors, and I just feel like indoors for me is the jam. I'm not so much a fan of in Washington being out in the cold and the rain during this season. So, this is a juried show, which means that you have to apply, and then a jury looks at your art and your booth shot, and then they decide if if they think that you're a good fit for the fair itself. And so this I think changes things a little bit than a show where they just kind of let everybody in. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think that as an artist you have to decide what you want, as far as how you're representing your art, and how confident you feel in putting yourself out there in those ways. But I say go for it. What have you got to lose? That's kind of my mentality about all of this. Okay, so getting into it. The first spring fair was wonderful. I had a great time. It was awesome. And I really try to go into these with the mindset of not worrying about the sales. I mean, obviously we want to make money, and we at least want to make our booth costs back, so that we're not going in the whole hole. But I don't want my only sense of um success to be based on sales, because if I didn't sell, then I would feel like it wasn't successful. And that's not really true, because we're going there to learn, right? Especially as we're, the people that are watching this, we're all up and coming artists, and we're all working on building our businesses. So everything is a learning experience. So I was very excited. I sold a few things at the spring fair, but it was really, 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 really slow. Like on Sunday, it was a Saturday, Sunday show. And on Sunday, there were hardly anybody was there. It was really weird. And everyone kept saying, wait until the fall show. It's so different. It's really good. You're going to love it. So I was very excited to come and see what it was going to be about. My neighbor actually had been to the fall show before. So the Thursday night before I left, I was with her and she said, oh my gosh, you're going to be so excited. It's so much better. And I was like, what makes it better? Why is the fall better? And she said that the energy is different. The people that come are different. And it's right before the holidays. So everyone is kind of already in that shopping mindset. They're coming to purchase. Whereas, like at the spring fair, I felt like they were just kind of getting out of the house because they'd been cooped up all winter and they were just meandering around and there wasn't a lot of sales going on. So I took some, oh, yes, question. Okay. Why won't it unmute your mic? It does.
Okay, how's that?
Worse. But what's your question?
Spring show. People are also spring cleaning.
Oh, yeah, that's true, right? So they're spring cleaning. They're not thinking about adding things to their home. They're subtracting things out, right? Yeah, that makes sense because in the fall, people are getting their house ready for everyone to come for it, different events and things. And so they're adding to their home versus subtracting. That's a very good point. That is a good point. Okay, so I wrote notes yesterday to hit on the things that I felt and that I learned. So the first thing is that when we got there, my husband had to apologize to me which is big, because he kept telling me that we had plenty of time. He does this a lot. He knows that he does it. And so he tries to get there at the least amount of time to set up because he didn't want to just sit around and wait for it to start. And I just kept saying, I'd rather be early and be set up and not be stressed. But I gave in and we got there and he did not account for loading and unloading our stuff into the fair to set up. Because remember, we had practiced already and luckily we had practice. So that's one of my first suggestions is before you go, make sure that you know where your art's going to go on your booth and you practice setting your booth up so that when you get there, nothing is a surprise because it's Murphy's Law, right? Inevitably, something that is going to go wrong and you're going to have to pivot. Better to be prepared. So we got there. Almost everybody was already set up when we got there because they had the opportunity to set up on Thursday and we waited until Friday. So right off the bat, we're behind and we're setting up. And because everyone was already set up, I immediately felt imposter syndrome. Immediately. There was someone about three booths down from me that has the most amazing art. I mean, super been an artist and been in this game a really long time. And so there's a lesson is we can't compare ourselves to people that are ahead of us because they're just ahead of us. It doesn't mean that they're better than us necessarily. I mean, maybe they are, but in our mind, we just have to remind ourselves that they're just further along on the journey. And it turns out that he was an incredible guy. He was very receptive to, mentoring me about Prince and, what his experience had been. But immediately I felt like I didn't belong. And so luckily we were so trying to hurry up and set up that I didn't have a lot of time to sit in that space of feeling like I didn't belong. I just had to go. And we got everything set up. I'm talking about as they opened the doors, I was straightening things. I mean, the lady next to me came by and she said, I didn't think you guys were going to make it. I'm impressed. You guys did well. She said, and there was no cussing. So you did really good. Tony said, we didn't have time to cuss. We had to get it done. We got it done. So those are all those lessons in there. And the first night was fine. It was a gala that they did. Apparently, this is the second year that they've done it. They made improvements to it from the year before. So they had a lot more people come. There were a lot of people that came and got dressed up, and they were there kind of like girlfriend date night, a couple date nights. Yeah. You unmute you. Can you unmute you? Yeah.
This was
This was
for
for
Friday
Friday
night.
night. Yeah, the gala. Yeah, they called it a gala. And so it was a more expensive ticket to get in. It was like $30 for people to get in. And they served hors d'oeuvres. They had a little quartet that was playing live, and they had wine that they were walking around with their wine and drinking and kind of taking everything in. So I sold a few small things that night, and this is really important before we talk about sales. I decided before I went that I was not going to focus on the sales because of what I said earlier in the show, that I wanted to focus on getting emails and making connections with people and practice talking about my art, because I realized that that is where I'm definitely lacking. When I was at the first show in spring and someone would ask me something about my art, I'm a talker, obviously. But I was tongue tied and I didn't know what to say. They kept asking us what alcohol ink was. And I was like, I don't know. I just use it. I mean, I don't know. I just did not yeah. So I wanted to practice that. In fact, I had Tony ask me questions the days leading up as if he were somebody standing there, and so I could kind of practice talking. But I didn't want sales to be my only factor of success, because if I didn't sell anything, then I would be disappointed and I would feel like that the show was a failure. And I just didn't want to feel like a failure. I mean, who does, right? So I wanted to set myself up from the beginning that I can't control whether or not someone loves my art or whether or not they purchase it. Go ahead. Come on, since you can unmute you, just go ahead and do it.
Um,
Um,
so
so
I'm gonna
I'm going
talk
to talk
slow.
slow. I think it's okay.
There's
There's
other
other
reasons
reasons
to
to
be at
be
a
at a
show
show
other
other
than
than
sales.
sales. Yes.
Meeting
Meeting
possible
possible
customers.
customers. Yes. Yes, 100%. Because when we talked to Lee of Lee Morrison Art, she's been on the circuit this year of doing many, many fairs. And one of the things that she was at this show with me as well. So one of the things that she keeps saying is that she a lot of her sales actually come after the show from people that she met at the show. So you can't base it all on just what you do at the actual fair. And I just want to give a shout out to her, by the way. I did not know this. She told me this weekend she got into the La Quinta in Palm Springs or Palm Desert, and she literally packed up her stuff Sunday night after the show, drove 17 hours the next morning down to California, and she's setting up today. So yay, so proud of her, so excited. That's a huge show to get into. That is really, I think, hard to get into that show. So she did that. So bravo to her. So I can't control whether someone purchases my art or they like it. So that's for me not something to focus on. All I can control are my expectations and my output. And so I made sure to tell Tony to remind me of that, like the whole weekend. Like I said, I know you've already told me once, but I'm going to need you to tell me many, many times throughout the weekend. Remind me why we're there, because it's very easy to Jeanette, are you stuck? Oh no, okay. It's very easy to get caught up in the hype of sales, because everyone around you is they weren't in the same mindset as me. They were only focused on sales as whether it was a good show, right? But I did have sales. So that night I sold a couple of things. When I got up the next morning to go for Saturday, I did have to have that conversation with him again. I shed a couple tears because I felt frustrated, and I said, I know I'm not going to focus on sales, but how do I not? And I'm feeling like I feel like I again, the imposter syndrome, like I just had to be talked down off of the ledge because I just felt like Saturday was not going to go good. It was just going to be crazy. And that was not what happened at all. So Saturday was incredibly busy. In fact, they did a post afterwards and they said that Saturday they had the most attendance of any other art fair that they've ever done. So I don't know what they did different, but they just had a lot of people there. And it was really bizarre because people were buying, like they were there. They were there to buy. I had a gal, my very first piece that I sold that morning was my largest piece. And a gal walked up. She was by herself at first and she looked at it and she was just standing there. And I tried to channel my sales experience from before into the booth, which is I tried to find something about every person that walked by or came in that I could compliment them on and build an instant sense of rapport and start the conversation, and but genuine, like that has to be genuine. You can't, people can sense if you're just saying something to butter them up. And she just connected, and I don't even remember now what we said, but then she just never left it and she just kept standing there. And then her mom, later I knew this was her mom, but her mom walked up and her mom said, how are you feeling about this? And she said, I just can't stop staring at it. It just brings me so much joy. And I immediately felt joy and I just said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that that's how it makes you feel." I almost didn't bring her because I didn't think anyone would get her. She's a special piece to me. I really pushed myself out of my comfort zone with this one, and I love her so much. So just the fact that you're staring at her makes me so happy. And then all of a sudden she said, she's the one. And her mom said, she's the one. And she said, yeah. And she just looked at me and she said, I'll take her. I think I reacted way too excitedly because I just didn't even know what to do. I mean, she didn't even blink at the price. Prior to getting there, I questioned my pricing. I'm at $1 a square inch right now for my larger pieces, and then a little bit more for my smaller pieces, which Jeanette and I have had this conversation a million times. And she kept saying, raise your prices. You're there. You're not, it's not an outrageous price. It's fair and it's where you should be. And I have been very reluctant and scared to do that. And I was questioning it. She didn't even bat an eye. It was worth it to her. And she started crying. She teared up. I teared up. I was like, can I hug you? And so she said, I know where it's going to go. And she literally just bought it. And I there's so many lessons in that, but the biggest one is that and Jeanette, this is what I want to share with you as well, because I know that the art behind you, you are in your transition phase with your art of where you're following your soul, you're following where you're being called inside of you to go. And it's very easy for us to feel so vulnerable when we're doing that. And then we're putting it out into the world for other people to look at it and we feel like they're going to judge it. But in that moment after she left and I was sitting there by myself again, I just thought, follow your heart. My art was different than every single art that was there. There was nothing like mine there, which made me feel insecure because I thought it was too different. But it wasn't. It was exactly what it was supposed to be because it's what I made. And I think that that's the biggest thing all of us as artists have to remember and take forward, is that we have to be true to ourselves. And it doesn't matter, honestly, what anybody else thinks, because if we love it, there will, and we put it out there, eventually there will be someone else that resonates with it too. And what we're doing as we're building our business ultimately is we're just trying to find the places where our people are also, right? So check your setting to see if stop echo is checked. Where is that? I don't see that at all. Are we echoing again? It's under volume. Where's volume? I don't even have I have a mute stop camera settings. Hold on. Recording, mirror, audio. Hold on. Echo cancellation is on. Reduce mic background. Okay. So I just changed something. Come back on and see if it worked. Did it work? Try edit.
Okay.
Okay. No?
No. Can you guys hear the echo? Bernie?
I don't hear your echo at all on my end, but Bernie will have to tell us on her end if it, or anyone else that's on.
So frustrating.
I know it really is, but you know what? I mean, ultimately it could just be a glitch on their side too, and nothing we could do could change it.
Yeah.
It almost makes me feel like they are having an issue because it all of a sudden today said use headphones if you're echoing, right? And so it didn't say that before, so they must know that something's going on and that's their fix, and maybe until they fix it on their end, I don't know.
Yeah, but why is yours fine?
I don't know, maybe because I started it. I'm okay, so I was in settings.
Well, it doesn't matter. You're doing great with what you're talking about. So
Default, automatically adjust. Okay.
be your
Well,
full
again,
self.
pop on when you have a comment or you want to say something. Anything yet?
I will.
Okay. Okay. So that lesson was follow our heart, do us, right? And so then and Tony wasn't with me. He had left to go home and let our dog out, and then he was going to hang out at home and then come back later. And so I messaged him that I sold it. Of course, he was excited too. And then I settled in. I mean, then I just felt really confident and not arrogant, but confident. Just like I just didn't feel those weird feelings in my stomach anymore that I didn't belong. It was very validating for myself. And then I sold several more pieces. So then, the thing that I was going to say is that I think what helped me a lot this time, and I would suggest that everyone else do this as well in whatever way you can. At the last minute, I had this vision. I did a post about it and I made that painting that said, I put joy on canvas. That's my tagline, right? And so we almost edited it out. And because Tony was like, that's major real estate right there. You need a painting there, not this sign. And at the end, it did turn out that I put it there because I'm like, but something's telling me to do it. So I said I was going to listen to my voice. And so I have to. And I will tell you that I think that that is what changed everything this time, because so many people, if I had a nickel for every person that walked by during the fair, stopped for a second, read the sign, looked around, and they all said to me, you do. You do. You put joy on canvas. And even if they didn't even come into the booth, they still stopped. And I feel like what that did was it explained my art. I mean, yes, they're flowers, but they're joy. They're more than that. They're joy. They're my joy. And I'm telling them that I'm putting my joy on canvas. It just happens right now to come out as a flower. There's a million flower paintings that anyone could buy at any given time. But mine is my joy on the canvas. And I'm sure other people are too. But I think that it helped people to see it differently, right? And the smiles that came from that and the interaction, because then they were interacting, and then that gave me the opportunity to be like, thank you, I'm so excited that you see that. Like, it just, there was a banter there that I did not have at the fair before the spring one. It just felt so awkward.
that is a
That
good,
is a good
uh,
uh
like,
like
tip
tip
to
to
try to define
define
your art
your art
in, like, a
in like a
tagline
tagline
and
Yes.
put
and
that
put that
in a
in
sign
a
like you
sign
did.
like
That's
you
a
did.
great
That's a
tip.
great tip.
I think so too. I think that it just gives them, they don't know you. One of the things that we keep hearing and that we keep learning as we're on this journey from people that have gone ahead of us is that people buy the artist more than they buy the art, right? And so when they're walking by your booth, I mean, you've got seconds. If you think that they're fast on Instagram scrolling by your stuff, they're even faster at the fair. You've got a second to catch their attention. And and I think that that's what it did. They had to stop to read the sign, the painting. I did it as a painting. They had to stop to read it. And then because they were stopped, they were like, "What do you mean you put joy on canvas?" And then they looked around. And there were a lot of people that I think wouldn't have even come in my booth, but they did come in because they stopped. And then once they were stopped, they're like, well, I might as well come in. They didn't necessarily buy, but I was in their mind. Now they're going to remember that they took the time. And so I would highly suggest that you spend some time thinking about a tagline that kind of represents you or your art, that gives them that split second of who are you as the artist.
Talk
Talk
about
about
email sign up.
email sign up.
So interestingly enough, I keep forgetting to check to see how many new emails that I got. So at first I did do like I'll do a post on it later, but I did do a standing sign that I put a QR code for people to sign up as they walked by. And at first nobody was doing it. And Tony and I had a conversation about maybe that's dead, because you actually text me, I think, during it, and I said we kind of think maybe that avenue of reaching people is dead. And but then after that, then people started to do it. I saw many people just walking by and they just take the picture and do. So I'll have to check to see how many new emails I got, but I definitely got the new emails from the people that purchased. So I ended up selling 5 paintings. Okay, here's some cool things. So one gal came by, and this was one of another super whimsical piece. It was a secondary piece to a commission that I did. Um and I love that commission so much that I did a little small piece just because I still had it in me. And it was down at the bottom. It was kind of hidden, and because you can't have everything at eyesight. I wish we could, but some things have to be down. So yes, that was the giveaway. The in the you're asking questions over in the side. So the QR code was the giveaway. So I was giving away a small 5x7 print when they signed up. So I'll have to do that drawing. I need to remember to do that. Um, so I forgot what I was saying. Oh, the gal came for that painting and she said, could I see that painting? Could you pull it out? And so I did, and I hung it where the other big painting was gone after she took it, and the light was right on it. She said, I just don't know. I'm going to go around and I'll be back. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just leave it. So then she did come back. I mean, many people say they're going to come back and then they don't come back. But she came back and then she said, well, it's between this one and the other one that we've seen. And she's talking to her friends, right? And so she said, apologetically, she said to me, I'm gonna go look at this other one that I'm thinking about so I can decide. And I said, please do, because when you purchase my art, I want you to be sure. I want it to be the one so that when you see it, you don't have any regrets. I want there to only be joy. And she was like, okay. And so then and that felt good to say that. Like there wasn't any desperation in my sales before, because I had quotas and because I had things that had to happen. There was always a sense of desperation. I need for people to do these things so that I can survive, so that I can, and this was so different. So she left, and I thought, well, I mean, I may or may not see her. And I went on about my business. And then they came back and she was like, this is the one, I'm choosing this one. And then she just stood there and she goes, I don't even know why. Why do I like this one? Like there's just something about it. And then her friend said, it's whimsical. And she was like, it is. It just makes me happy. And I said, that's all it's supposed to do. So she bought it. And then another lady came, and she was with a group of people, and she asked me, there were paintings like this, in a row. And she said, can I see those side by side? So I put them up, and then I went to her. I said, wow, those look really good together. I don't know why I ever not thought to put them together, but they actually do. What a good idea. And so she was like, yeah, they do. So she was hawing and doing this and looking at it. And then she said, well, her friend said, well, where are you going to put them? And then she said, well, I could take the ladies and move them back where they were. And then these could go in that spot instead. And then her daughter said, well, you could give me the ladies. And I said, where are these ladies? What are these lady paintings? I need to know about them. And they said, oh, it's an inside joke, whatever. But then she ended up buying those two paintings. So she got them together. And my lesson in that is that I just felt so happy that my art beat out whatever those two ladies were that were on that wall, and they got booted. And then she put my art there instead. Like, who would have ever imagined? I would have never, sometimes I don't have words about those things, because it's just the emotions are overwhelming, because all we're doing is putting ourselves on these substrates, whatever you're using, right? And it's so vulnerable. It just is. I think that people that don't create will never understand that vulnerability of putting it out there. And Jeanette and I both, yeah, it is. And and then you're worried about somebody squashing it. And only one negative person at the very end, after I had already sold all the stuff, because I had sold 5 paintings and then 10 assorted between 5 mini minis, 4 desk prints, and then 1 fine art print. And so and that was a test that we were doing, to see how those were if the smaller price points were going to do well. And they really did. But one lady walked by at the end and she couldn't see me. So I think it's amazing when you're not there, like people just are, just crappy. There's just always crappy people in the world. But she walked by one of the paintings and she looked at the price, and then she said, that's just ridiculous. She named the price out and said, that's just ridiculous. And then just kept walking. And I was like, you're not my people, like you're just not my people. So bye. But had she have done it at the beginning, I would have been texting you, Jeanette, talking about, I'm changing my prices because somebody said that they're ridiculous, But luckily, someone had already paid more than that for a painting, and so it really wasn't ridiculous,
Right.
She
probably likes realistic, detailed.
Yeah.
Paint.
Yeah.
So to her.
Yeah, you're right. That because I think that she was meaning it of like, that painting's not that hard to do. Why are you charging that much for it?
Exactly. But she doesn't know what goes into it.
She has no idea, because they look simple, but they're not. And
like
that particular painting has many layers in it. So they have no idea.
It's what people say about abstract art.
Yes.
Art. Oh, I can do that. Well, I say, please do.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Tag me when you do it, right? I did have one strange lady come up, and she was a vendor, which always just strikes me as odd, because it's like, well, you should you should know better. But she just came up in a like in a fluster of whatever. And she had her phone camera, and she was like, I'm just going to take some pictures because my son paints and he would love to paint these. And she just started snapping pictures. And then she looked at me and said, oh, I hope that's okay. And I was like, well, we've already taken them now. Like, fine, whatever. I just think instead of just coming up and saying, he would be inspired by these, or, because I've taken pictures, I've asked permission and taken pictures and said, this, I would love to do a version of this, and it never even ends up as a version of that. It's totally different than what the inspiration is. But she was just a strange lady. And I just chuckled to myself because I just thought people are different sometimes. Other artists came in and talked to me, and we had really great conversations about art and how I did techniques. And I did feel a lot more comfortable talking about things this time.
Good. I want to ask.
Yeah.
So your plan is to go back in spring.
Well, yes.
I think you should.
Well,
the reason
why, and I am, but I have thoughts about it. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I'll let you finish thoughts, and then we'll probably have time. But I think you should, for the fact of the show, making contacts, whether or not the sales are as good.
Yes, I agree. My only concern, though, is that the attendance was so low that there weren't really any opportunities to make connections other than with other artists at the spring fair. So the only reason I think I would go back is to see if that was a fluke or if that is the way that the spring fair is. But what Tony and I talked about that on the way home is that yes, I could do that, but the money that I spent on the fair, because it's a fairly expensive fair, I could use to connect with people on Instagram and do some targeted ads and meet people, connect with people in that way. So it's a toss up business wise what would be the best choice. But I think that we said we were going to do 3. It's only fair to go ahead and do the 3 and then take the average of them. You wrote in the chat, did you say they had changed some things for more attendance? They did yes, they did. They did it. And what they did, mostly they did the changes for the expo or the gala the night before, but they advertised a lot more this time. And I think that it worked because there was so many people. There was just so many people all day. It was a steady stream of people going by and many, many people going by. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm just going to look at my notes the other really cool thing. I think they will do that for spring. I'm hoping. So we'll see. And right now I think we have a while to apply, but they've already opened up the applications for spring as well. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I made enough money at the show that now I can use that money to pay for the next fair. So I do feel, honestly, I made enough money at this show to pay myself back for the spring fair and to pay for the next fair. So, and I had already paid for this fair with sales that I did previously, like commissions and stuff like that. So I do feel like all of a sudden my business is starting to pay for itself, and then eventually there'll be profit, like where you could start to try to live on it. And that's maybe one of the final lessons before we sign off, is that I do think that as artists, we do have to know that it will take some money it takes money to make money. right? And so whatever, if you really want to make it work, I think that you have to do two things. You have to paint, 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 and get better, 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 and get more confident. And then when you're ready to put yourself out there like that you have to know, do whatever it takes to generate some income while you're leading up to that, save it, and then know that you're going to be investing that into then what you need to invest it into to get your art out there to start making it. And unfortunately, that's not always easy to do. Everybody's situation is different where they are financially. And so I don't have, I'm in a place where I'm at where I have money from where I retired from my other job, and now we're investing that into this. But if you're not there, then it might come down to taking on an extra job or whatever idea that you can, that's what you're doing. Whatever you can do to be able to make ends meet and be able to save to invest into your business. Because even if you were to do a whatever store, any business that you would want to go into, you would have to have some seed money to get things going. And I think we're doing a disservice to each other by pretending that that's not actually a reality, right?
So true.
So true. Yeah. I mean, we can pretend all we want that artists just make it by, someone discovers them, and maybe they do, one out of a freaking million. But the ones that are making it are learning the business side of it, because there's the fun art, heart, putting our soul on the canvas side, but there's also a real live, it's a business. And if you want it to pay you, you have to treat it like a business and learn. And if you don't have those skills, it's easy to learn them, right?
Yep.
But
Good,
you gotta,
good.
Yeah.
Good way to
Good
end.
way to end. All right.
Yay,
Yay! It was so freaking fun. It was exciting. It was exhilarating. It was all the things that you would hope that it would be. It was all the things that you would want it to continue to be. It is possible. And I just want to say, if I can do it, I came into this 3 years ago, never have, some of you may not even know this, never having picked up a paintbrush before in my entire life, other than painting walls in my house. No art school, no art classes in high school, anywhere. And I learned from Instagram and from other artists, and if I can do it, then anybody can do it. We can do it. We can do it. It's possible.
Social media.
Social media. Yes. It is a whole new world. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
For all of
us.
And,
all of us. Yes. And that comes to another show we need to do about social media and getting real about that, because it is allowing us to be able to do it, but you have to make that decision that you're going to do it.
Talk about after Thanksgiving.
Oh, after Thanksgiving, we're actually going to have our great friend Bernadette on again. We're so excited about that. She just got done with an art fair that she did. I forget where, but we're going to briefly talk about that. And then we're also going to talk about the Mini Minis Club and what we're learning about that and how successful that's been. And that is a viable, I think, just from the experience that I've had so far with it, I do think that that is a viable source of income for artists at a price point that they can at least be generating a tiny bit of income to come in that can fund their either art supplies, or they can save it to do these booths and to do the larger things that they want to do. So that's what we're going to talk about, and how to set that up and all that. So there's a lot happening right now.
After Thanksgiving, come back.
Okay, before we go though, we've got just 3 minutes, because it's all been about me today, which is so weird. I don't like it. But your art behind you, we were starting to talk about it. This is your new.
It's not done.
It's not, but it's coming along. And how are you feeling?
Good. I'll talk more
next
week because
when
my
we have
volume.
better audio. Yeah. Okay, but just know I'm super excited.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Hopefully, there was some nuggets in there. If you have any questions about anything, reach out to either one of us on social. And we love you guys and appreciate you watching.
Bye.
Have a great Thanksgiving if you're celebrating. All right, I'm going to do our thing.